When I initially started thinking about working on this chapter, I said to myself, how can I make this real for my students? Because I really want you to want this. I want you to want to have your whole body moving as one and initiating each movement. And so I thought, well, I'll pick an example and I'll talk about how it makes you much more attractive. And I will make this so compellingly real that you will want this. And I thought, well, there are a lot of things I could choose. You know, I could choose how it makes the lead that much more profound, how it makes the follow move from a guessing game to something that's, well, of course I did that. How could I do anything else? Something that's natural and unavoidable. I could talk about the way it makes your lines clean and clear and beautiful. I could talk about the way it makes you more powerful. And so I thought I'd pick one of these and I'd go on, and eventually you'd want it. And I thought to myself, you know, I can't do that because it's not true. And the reason that it is not true is because it is not only about any one of these things, it's about all of them and more. So in this chapter we're going to do about all of them and how moving with your whole body makes all of them a lot better. So just strictly from an appearance perspective, say, is this guy attractive or not? How attractive is he? It's not dance, it's just attractiveness. Okay, there's one. Here's two. Here's three. Just that. Or for example, you talk about moving the whole body as one piece, and that's about making my body whole, by the way, right? If I'm like this, in some sense my upper neck and upper back are disconnected from my lower body. That's why it fits in this theme. If I ask someone to do a front ocho and I pivot them like this, that's about my arms going in and out. You know, I'm boxing or something. And we'll talk more about that later. And really, if I do this, that is about my chest rather than about my arms. It makes it a very profound lead. If I do this, of course someone maybe doesn't go. You know, that's all in my arms. If I do this, they'll move. If I'm going to follow, and the guy I'm a follower now, and the guy takes me that way, and I go, oh, I'm going that way, and then I catch up with a leg, of course it feels awkward. But if, as every millimeter of movement taking me that way also moves my leg, then by the time the step comes, it's like, well, you know, how could I not go there? If we take a line, let's say I want to do a nice lunge line. Do you see the niceness of the lunge line? They're like, no, we don't. Good. So, well, what's the lunge line about? It's about being long. So let's make me long. Do you see the nice? Well, they're like, it's less bad. So the legs are fitting, but my torso is not communicating that. So I'll make the torso lengthen as well. And you'd say, well, oh, that's much better. But is it that? It's not done yet. So this lunge line is about lengthening. So if you see me do that, then all of a sudden it works because that is about the lengthening. And finally, I have this idea that it makes you a lot more powerful. Because when I take my whole body and it all goes back, then you know, whoever was in front of me, they just went forward. Now we can think of this from a lot of perspectives. One way to think of moving with the whole body is to think of it from a functional perspective. So a while ago I took a rock climbing class. And me, I didn't know how to rock climb. This is how I reach for the rock. And then I pull myself up. I use these muscles and up. And the body not at all. I asked my rock climbing teacher how he reaches for a rock. This is how he did it. And you know, he hasn't even moved his arm yet. And then he grabs the rock. So the point is, it's not about the arm. It's about the whole body being involved in that action that's reaching for this rock. I hear, I don't know, this is not first-hand knowledge, but that boxers throw a punch from their hip and from their midsection. And that, in some sense, the punch isn't about the arm. I mean, it is, but it's really about, right, so if I punch someone, this big violent bad guy comes at me, bang. Is he going to fall down? No, he's going to knock me over. But because that's just my arm, it's not very convincing. But if he comes at me and I throw my hip, and I throw, and I have this hip rotation in the midsection, and it's sort of, you get this sense of violence. And I don't know how to throw a punch, but there's that idea of the body being involved. I had a friend who was into golf. He was pretty serious. And he's like, David, golf swings isn't what you think it's about. He was telling me that his golf pro told him that, or was working with him, on making it about the shift of the center from one foot to the other and about the rotation, right? So the rotation comes from your midsection, and the shift is your center of gravity from one foot to the other. So the golf swing is not this in the arms, it's this. Once again, I'm sure lots of things are wrong since I don't play golf, but the fundamental idea is still the same, that you are using your whole body, focusing especially on your center of gravity and your torso to initiate movement. And the same is true in tango. If I ask someone to step side, I don't say, and I'm going to take a side step with them, I don't say, let's go side, where I'm using my arms, and I don't say, let's go side, where I'm using my legs. I say, let's go side, and it starts in my center, and I pull it, let's go side, and they go, okay. So we keep it very functional. So this idea of moving with your whole body, it's not only something that I would say is functional for physical movement, but you can even put it in an emotional context or in the context of communication. So for example, sometimes you'll see people do this. They'll say, no, don't give me to that. I really don't want it. You know, there's this beautiful apple pie. No, 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 I can't take. Or for example, you'll have people do things like, oh, that would be wonderful. And you ask, why is that funny? Why is it funny if someone says, oh, that would be wonderful? And the answer is because they're not acting as one, right? So it makes sense if I say, that would be wonderful, right? And there's no humor in that. But if I say, that would be wonderful, you know I'm really not saying that at all. Because, and what's more interesting is it's not the mouth that tells the truth, it's the body. So if you think about it in this context, then you'll say that communication that is whole body, that all of you gives the same message, starting with the body, is communication that makes sense. And communication where something is going against that. Let's say I do this. I say, I'm really happy. What do you believe? And the answer is you believe the body. And if things are lying, and I say, I'm really happy, what do you believe? You see there's a happy waving hand, but there's a sad body. This one's very confusing. But probably you believe the body over the hand because the body's more towards the core. And it's not just that. So if we think of tango as, performing as four things, that you've got the dynamic in your body, which this is obviously about. You've got the use of timing. You've got the choreography you're doing. And then you have a sense of acting. Well, in some sense, this is about the acting as well. So for example, if you see me and I'm here, and I say, I'm so happy. And you see I'm smiling, so it must be true. On the other hand, I could say, I'm so happy. And then you believe me more. Or I could say, I'm so happy. And now you really do believe me because my whole body is about that. So as you're wanting to make an emotional message, or any type of communication, to the extent that the communication is whole, it makes it that much more powerful. And in the context of performing tango, then you'd say, well, we're acting something, we're acting passion. And then that's believable because the whole body is being in that place of passion. So we spent all this time showing you how being whole in your body is just vastly, vastly important, and it makes a huge difference. And you're like, yes, David, we want it. What do we do? And there's this question, David, I get it, but how? And the answer, I'll give you a couple exercises. So for the leaders, imagine you're pushing a 500-pound object.
David!
Who's not the follower, who of course is light as a feather and incredibly wonderful. Right. Not to say that heavy is bad. Anyway, I just dig myself deeper. But you're moving a 500-pound object and you push. And if you were to move something that was 500 pounds, you'd really dig in, and you'd gird your loins, you'd tighten your abs, and then you'd push. And what I want to do, the first exercise for the leaders, actually, this could be an exercise for both, is that as you're leading, you'll be pushing on my hips. She's just going to follow me, and sometimes she will be the 5 pounds that she actually is.
Right.
And sometimes she will be the 500 pounds that she will have to work to be, pushing into the floor and digging, so it's hard for me to move her. And I don't know when, so for the leaders, I don't want your body dynamics to change. I want your body to be engaged the whole time because you want to be ready, right? This is a very functional approach. So I'm walking towards her, and I'm walking towards her, and I'm not changing how I walk, even though the pressure changes one more time. So I keep my walk the same. And believe me, she's making it hard for me sometimes.
That was fun.
The other half, I'm panting. The other half, now leaders, we're going to be moving our followers who in actuality only take 5 pounds of pressure. And for the followers, I want you to imagine that you're like a tumbleweed or a leaf in the wind. And so I'm just going to create soft pressure, and she's going to go in that direction. I'm going to create soft pressure. And so the job for the followers is not what kind of steps you're going to do. It's about just making sure your body can float in whatever direction he takes you. And eventually what happens is you stop, for the followers, is you stop thinking about, oh, where do my legs go? And you start thinking, let's just move my center of gravity and let the legs land wherever they need to land. And the difference between this and tango is that as tango dancers, we don't really want to dance like tumbleweeds, you know, or it wouldn't be tango. Instead, we add a sense of thickness and time and weight between each of the steps, each of the weight change. Whenever you go over the leg to the leg, and that adds a kind of shape and energy that makes it more tango-like. We started this chapter talking about the different areas in which moving with your whole body can make a big difference. And then after that, we talked about different contexts, right? That you can approach it from a functional perspective, you can approach it as a way of making communication more powerful. After that, we gave you some tools, which you'll have fun with, practice, play at home with a friend. But the fundamental idea is that this really is that important, and it really does make everything better.